My name is Josh Schneps, and I'm the owner and publisher of Behind the Hedges and Dan's Papers. So it's really terrific for us to be doing what is Behind the Hedges first of many webinars and podcasts. Hopefully everyone got to see the brand new behindthehedges.com that we launched, I think, this morning. So we're going to be bringing a lot more real estate news and information to everyone out there interested in buying and renting. We appreciate everybody's time being here with us for what is first of many Behind the Hedges webinars. This one specifically is on the Hamptons fall residential real estate market, which has gone through a tremendous amount, obviously due to COVID and the benefit of living and being out in the Hamptons. We have a fantastic group of panelists that I am going to have introduce themselves. Just give us 1 second here. Elizabeth, I think the screen.
Shoot.
Elizabeth,
What, yes?
I'm seeing your screen.
That's not my screen. Let me see.
That's Patti Wadzinski.
Yeah, you might want to.
Patty, can you, let's see. Patty, can you stop sharing your screen, please?
I'm trying to get in.
One of our panelists just joining. So just bear with us for 1 minute, please.
Your screen.
Okay, we'll get to.
I can't get the camera to come on, folks.
So Patty, if you want to just talk, you can talk in the meantime, but we are live with our audience. So I want to thank everyone for joining us in what should be an informative session discussing what you need to know when it comes to buying and renting in the Hamptons. Again, feel free to ask questions in the Q&A at the bottom of the Zoom. We'll try to get to as many of those as possible. If we don't get to those, we are going to email you all of our panelists' contact information so that you can have follow-up and be able to speak with them after the fact. I'd love to get started and have our panelists briefly introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and what areas of the Hamptons you specialize in. So I'd love to get started with Judi, who's the CEO and president of Town and Country Real Estate.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you for the invite. Yes, Town and Country has 8 offices throughout the North Fork and South Fork, and we've been around, this is our 15th year. So we service sales, rentals, commercial, investments, and this has been quite a year.
Thank you for being with us. Enzo with Douglas Elliman Real Estate.
Hi, how are you guys? So Enzo Morabito with Douglas Elliman. We've been the top team in the Hamptons for the last 10 years in a row. We service, I have 2 offices that I operate out of. One's in West Hampton Beach, the other one is in Sag Harbor, both 2 lovely villages. West Hampton Beach coming up through the ranks like unbelievable. We service all the way out to Amagansett. We don't do the Napeague stretch. It's just a little bit too far. So, but other than that, we pretty much service all of the Hamptons. And we just started a new branch where we're doing Port Jeff, Mount Sinai, mostly waterfront.
Great to have you here with us, Enzo.
Thank you.
JB with Nest Seekers.
Hello all, thank you for the invite, Josh, and for setting this up. My name is JB Andreassi. I'm with Nest Seekers International. I am specializing right now in land and new construction. I'm a little bit newer to the game. I'm amongst some veterans and some pros here on the panel, so really excited and privileged to be on with you guys, and I think I'll learn a little bit today myself.
Thanks for being with us here, JB. Shannan with Brown Harris Stevens.
Hi, Josh. Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. I'm Shannan North. I work for Brown Harris Stevens at the East Hampton office. I've been in the business for 17 years. I've had the privilege of working beside Peter Torino, who's been a great mentor. And I also have my grandmother, who's 93 years old and has me as the 13th generation in Sag Harbor. So it's been a lot of fun sharing the industry with her and hearing all her stories of the properties that I've been around. So that's been a lot of fun. So there's no place that I wouldn't go and any story I wouldn't share with you all.
That's great history. I love it. I hope, Patty, I hope we can't see you, but we hope we can hear you.
Well, I hope you can hear me as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, and maybe it's a good thing. Halloween is coming up, and I could be scary. You never know. Anyway, I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity to join the panel and with the esteemed colleagues that are here, and particularly Judi, who I worked with many years ago when I began, and she was a good mentor. I've been with Sotheby's after 21 years with the Cook Pony Farm Corcoran letterhead since 2008. And as Shannan has expressed, I couldn't be happier to be where I am because of the tremendous global reach that we have along with the tri-state area and across the country. I have began my business without much experience in the real estate arena many years ago, and used to do a tremendous number of rentals, which helped me to establish the business that I enjoy today. And I look forward to continuing the conversation with all these good panelists.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm going to start off with the first question to Judi and Enzo. Maybe Judi, if you can go first. How has COVID impacted the interest from buyers and renters in the Hamptons? And what does the market look like going into the fall and winter?
Well, I think everyone on the panel and everyone in the industry will attest to the fact that this year is like no other year. It's a combination of a frenetic must-have to where I used to say that we're a luxury item. I think we are now a need versus a want. And maybe this will be the primary residence and Manhattan will be the place they visit. So they'll live here and go there. Moving into the fall, the frenetic pace that we had all summer long has certainly subsided a little bit, a lot bit, but the steady stream of business continues. And I'm happy to see that there's more inventory coming on the market, because there was a time I think we were all a little concerned that the demand super outweighed the inventory, and we were having bidding wars, which is never good for anyone. Buyer, seller, broker, everybody is unhappy when you get into a bidding war, because someone's going to win and someone's going to lose, and everyone's going to be upset with us as the conduit between it all. So I think we're going to see an incredible winter, and next year should be an incredible year.
Enzo, same question to you. And also, what are the reasons people are moving out to the Hamptons now beyond the obvious COVID reasons?
I think one of the primary concerns that just about anyone has is children. If you have children, they become paramount to everybody. And when people have to make a choice and it affects their children, they usually go with the children, until it's gone. So anyone who was concerned with what was going on, they moved their kids out here, and they moved out here. They flocked out here. I've never seen anything like it. They're still keeping, in the beginning, they were keeping 1 foot, and it's still there. It was like Escape New York City. If you've ever seen that science fiction movie, it kind of felt like that. But they had 1 foot in New York, and they had 1 foot here, and people are still in that middle there. And depending on what's happening here, I think then we're going to see some choices. And I agree with Judi. I think that a lot of the people are not going to go back, that they're going to stay here, and New York will have a whole influx of new people, young people that can go there and maybe regenerate. So I look at it, I look at all of it as really, really a good thing across the board for us in the real estate business. Business has been through the roof. Currently, we have, I think we have like, my team, we have like 20 properties in contract. I kind of disagree a little bit with Judi, with bidding wars. You don't like bidding wars, but ultimately, if they benefit our clients, I'm for it. And, then they're not happy with the broker. They're not happy with everything, but really what we're really working for, we're working for the client. And if we can get them more money, so be it. And it is what it is. And we look forward to a pretty good season. It has tapered off a little bit, just so everybody knows that. It's hit the peak and it's kind of going sideways, but you don't have that intensity.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to address this question to our other three panelists, and I'll start with you, JB. Could you talk a little bit about some of the different hamlets and how the prices range and how you find a community that's a good fit, whether it's buying or renting?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one special thing about the Hamptons in general is that we have these super unique towns and hamlets, sort of an offering for everyone, so to speak. For example, if you like to boat or you like to fish, the north side of the South Fork is probably the place for you. The Peconic Bay, Sag Harbor are towns that come to mind. If you're more of a, beach goer and kind of like the community local vibe, then Montauk might be the place for you. The thing to know is that there's just something for everyone out here. I think what's been interesting is that historically, the last 5 years, Watermill North and Bridgehampton North and some of the areas that are displaced on the villages and the beaches have dropped off a bit. This year, we've seen a pickup and some more traction with sales there. So, indicators are that people and buyers alike and investors are looking for places with more property, more privacy, more, fresh air. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. And yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what happens into the fall. I agree with Enzo, it has tapered off just a bit, but I think they'll be right back out right after the holidays.
Thank you, JV. Shannan, same question to you in terms of the different hamlets and their price ranges and finding the right fit as a buyer.
Right. Real estate has always been about location, and I'm finding that people are focusing more on the product and the property. The amenity package is important. So, for example, somebody looking south of the highway is also now going to look north of the highway. So it's an interesting parallel to compare. The searches are broader. So it's important to listen to the consumer, see what their hobbies are. Like JB was saying, if they're a boater, if they ride horses, if they play tennis, figure out what's important to them. There is a place for everybody. Ultimately, the properties that are for rent and for sale the turnkey properties are the most desirable. So that's where we see these bidding wars as we've been talking about.
Patti, same question to you.
Okay, as the ghostwriter in the crew here, I would agree with some of the remarks that JB and Shannan have made. And I think it's exceptionally important for brokers, regardless of how long they've been in the industry, to be very attentive to listening to their buyers. And, sometimes you don't get that in a text or an email. So when you're actually physically with them, or you can engage them in a phone conversation, you'll hear again and again the things that really become important. And I think also because of the level of intensity that we've went through, people are looking for something that they can really get into almost right away. They need to set up their kids, they need to set up their business, they need to know exactly what their parameters are to not lose the kind of momentum and to retain some aspect of normalcy. As to which areas are the hottest, again, I would concur with Shannan on that. If you've been fixed on a south of the highway property, you may have to be looking north of the highway. The entry markets are still extraordinarily sought after, and they get depleted very, very quickly. Your $2 to $3 million range, regardless of where it is and what hamlet is also an extremely hot location or price point rather. And then you have, the folks that have been sitting by since the end of 2019, waiting for the market to level off, and they've been able to be extraordinarily liquid and have purchased some pretty extraordinary properties at extraordinary prices. We've found here in the greater East Hampton area that the market has been fuller than ever. And I think that's true throughout all of the hamlets. And I think in summary, it's important to work with a knowledgeable broker who listens to what you have to say and can source the properties and get you to closing.
I'd like to add a little bit on that, on the flavor of the different towns, if I may. One of the biggest breakthroughs that we've had is that west of the canal, the Shinnecock Canal, has become quite a marketplace, and we're seeing a lot of new buyers. I service both of them on both sides of the canal, but we're seeing a lot of transfers from people coming out here. Finally, everyone's been talking about how it's closer to New York and it's there. So that's really, really become a big, big, big market for us.
And Enzo, what for our viewers, what neighborhoods would that encompass?
I would encompass Hampton Bays. Hampton Bays on the water, if you're a water person, has probably some of the best waters on all of Long Island. You can actually go fishing. You can go, a big bay. You can go out into the ocean. The price range is 50 cents on the dollar, at least, on the waterfront. Then you're looking at East Quogue, the same situation, a lot of people entrenched. Again, going back to our kids, the school systems on this side of the canal, that was one of the reasons that I moved back from Bridgehampton to West Hampton Beach. I moved back here because of my son for school. So you look at all of them, Sag Harbor, Hampton Bays, East Quogue, West Hampton, Quogue, which is a little community. A few people know it exists. They always think I'm misspelling it. And Quogue, of course. Quogue seems to be, we branded Quogue the closer Sagaponic. West Hampton Beach is going through a transformation, a renaissance. I mean, right now they're burying the wires outside. They redid the whole village, and it's picking up a flavor of Sag Harbor, which is my favorite place to hang out in. So now I have two nice villages. Yeah.
Judi, Enzo had talked about the market kind of tapering off. I mean, obviously, once a market gets so hot, how hot can it get? So question for you is, where do you see the market going, and can this trajectory continue to go up, up, up? And what kind of impact do you think it has to the high season when it comes around next year?
Excellent question. We just published our third quarter report, and we see things like the high end just zooming off the charts. In fact, the $5 to $10 million range has gone up over 300% year over year. There were 50 more house sales third quarter 2020 versus 2019. And looking forward, I can only look at our statistics, and we have over 150% more pending fully executed contracts, which means that is going to relay to fourth quarter and first quarter 2021. Looking at transactions that are not signed, but O&As and meeting of the minds and things such as that, and that is greater too. So in answer to your question, all of the mechanisms that we can use to monitor future business is double or more what it was the prior year. So we anticipate at least into the first half of 2021 to be a banner year. And it's odd because years ago I said, I think the high end, or what I call it the new high watermark, happens every 7 years. It's on a 7-year cycle. Because in 2007, we hit a new high watermark, particularly for high end. It's all high end here anyway. Then it happened again in 2014 that our high watermark got bumped up. And I kept saying, well, maybe 2021, if it really is a 7-year cycle, 2021 is going to be a new high watermark for our real estate. High watermark to me converts to the number of transfers as well as the total home sales volume, things like that, that are metrics that I can actually put my fingers on, being a number junkie. So those are the things that show me where the projections are going.
Those are mind-blowing numbers. Amazing.
I know, they really are.
Patti, same question to you in terms of where you see the market going. I know you were talking about the $2 to $3 million range, but really amazing to hear what Judi said on the $5 million and up range.
Well, I would have to say nobody quite competes with statistics with Judi Desiderio. She is, as stated, a numbers junkie, and this goes back as long as I've known her, which has been many decades. And I would say that I do agree with her in that higher category, and I do agree with the cycle. I started probably at the low end of one of the low water marks and climbed into one of the first high water marks, as Judi has articulated, and have seen those same sine waves of activity take place. And I think that that the market is continuing at a very steady pace. It may not be quite as frenetic right now as it has been, but I think it's going to continue. And well into the first half of 2021, and then we'll see what happens from there. If we all could be like Johnny Carson a bunch of years ago and have that little envelope on our forehead, and we could say, you know, so-and-so says, and then you have the answer, you open up the envelope. But yes, I do think, according to the numbers that we see here at Sotheby's, not only in the Hamptons area, but throughout Greenwich, Palm Beach, the New York and Westchester, the New Jersey and Westchester markets, and out in Santa Fe, and even overseas, the numbers are steadily climbing on this particular trajectory.
No, one of the things that's happened too, just lately in the last 3-4 months, you had large tracts of land, high-end luxury land that sat there for a long time, and there's a land rush going on. I mean, and that's pretty good for long-term planning, because when people are buying those type of properties, they're looking to build, and that weighs really well for the future of what's going to happen, because they're going to be building. So that's a testament to confidence of what's going on. So
And
it's
Josh,
all good across the board.
Could I just add one thing in
Sure.
respect as well? I think as we all have noticed, that there are more and more year-round kind of commercial venue properties that have also been spoken for throughout the Hampton areas. And you'll see people you might not ever see out here starting out with commercial pop-up stores that I think are going to fill the commercial and the year-round gap, that people who are relocating here from Manhattan are going to want to have some of those services out here, art galleries and specialty shops. And I think that has happened throughout all of the commercial districts that we have. You have new art galleries, and you have new designers that are setting up their shops here, and they're doing good business.
Patty's exactly right. And what we're seeing is the people who are relocating out here are adding to the fabric of our communities, which is really great. And as she indicated, they're demanding or wanting to have certain luxuries or things that they had where they coming from, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, wherever it was, and they're bringing their favorite shops with them. So it's really wonderful to see the villages evolve into more vibrant villages, because there was a little while there where I was concerned about our main streets. They were getting kind of like Madison Avenue is going through right now.
It's interesting how, you know, the towns are being able to get business that they weren't expecting to get 7 days a week in the season. So I think it's really been helpful to many of them. Shannan, question to you. What do buyers coming from the city need to know to look out for? And how has COVID changed the whole process of buying? And then lastly, you know, what type of buyers are you seeing? Is it a lot of young families, or are we seeing investors move in as the market has grown so rapidly?
So right now the market is extremely competitive, as all of us have said. So if you are interested in a property, I can guarantee you so is somebody else. The other thing that you should know is that the purchasing process involves an intricate amount of work between a number of people. So you have attorneys, inspectors, surveyors, the municipalities. Everybody is working so hard to do these things in a timely manner, and it's tough. So be patient. And I think communication is key. Timing is key. So in terms of the people that are coming out here, it's really all walks of life, and it's just people that want to come out here to feel safe and have space to live in. But it's older generations, younger generations. I don't find a pattern of any one particular individual. It's just people looking for safety and space.
What about you, JB, in terms of the types of buyers and what people need to know buying out in the Hamptons if they haven't, you know, lived here over a long period of time before?
Yeah, absolutely. I think historically, Hamptons home purchasers have been secondary and third home purchasers. Now we're seeing a shift to folks that are going to make this place their primary residence. So I think in the past, where you could potentially be a bit more patient, play the cards, kind of do your diligence, do months of diligence and wait around. You can't do that anymore. I've had buyers that have been, 2 or 3 buyers that have been on the wrong sides of those bidding wars and now had to go back to the city and wait it out. And I think, now there's been a push to bring on more supply, bring on more inventory. And I think that's across the board. The lack of supply has really hurt us in a way. And I don't think we were anticipating as brokers that there would be such high demand and such quick turnover and quick transactions that we haven't seen in the past. In terms of my buyers, it's been a lot of family members, of course, but investors in the city, my guys that are in the finance world who have been, killing in the city for the past 10 years, they can't do that anymore. So a lot of them have reached out to see what opportunities are out here to potentially reshift their resources and money and time and potentially get involved in some of these more lucrative land deals that Enzo mentioned before.
I want to remind our audience, do not be shy. Please ask questions in the Q&A chat. We have a good question here, so I'll present it to each one of our panelists before we move on to the next question. What is the market like for buying land right now? And what should people know about when buying land and wanting to develop?
Are we talking individual lots or subdivisions?
I guess if you
On
could.
those subdivisions.
There were a few.
Judy is always thinking ahead, everyone.
Very few, yes.
Yes, very few. In fact, there's very few individual lots these days. It's very important to make sure that you have an up-to-date survey so that you can see if there's any encroachments and easements or someone's on your property that doesn't belong. And then you have to work with your surveyor and the municipality to make sure that you can improve that lot in the manner in which you want. If you're buying a half-acre lot and you're thinking you're going to put up an 8,000 square foot house, that's not going to happen. So it's very important to make sure that whatever you have in mind can actually fit within the parameters that the municipality will allow.
And I would agree with Judy on all of those points and include the fact that here you're starting with an unimproved piece of property. People may or may not exactly see what the potential is there. And you have to also instruct your sellers to have a survey ready property, because then their property is going to be much more available in a more immediate fashion. And I think we'll all agree that as busy as we are, all of our tradespeople are busy as well. And you need to get into their timelines to be able to effectively build that property out. And again, it goes back to, I think, working with knowledgeable brokers who know how to work with the surveyors, know how to work with municipalities, know where the water recharge areas are, particularly in the East Hampton area with the huge amount of aquifer that we all enjoy our drinking source water from. And the inventory for land is not true. It's not great. I mean, in the context of actual numbers of lots, you have to really look to see what you have. And if you have a lot that has contour, you need to have somebody who can see the vision of the contour.
A lot of times what occurs when someone's buying land, it's kind of worked backwards. If you're thinking of buying land, you should have a team assembled. You should have an attorney, you should have a surveyor, land use guy, good broker, and kind of figure it out. You don't wait till you put an offer in and then try to assemble the team. It's not there. You need to assemble a team. You need to be prepared. You have to have everything lined up so you get quick answers, you don't waste any time, and whoever is prepared for that will jump to the front. Always be prepared.
I would say most of our lots, the individual lots, go to developers and builders because they do understand the nuances of building. You could be looking at a property and be nowhere near the water and it's got wetlands. So those are the things that you really have to be very much aware of before you do it. And then there's areas like south of the highway where most of the times people are taking tear downs instead of starting from scratch, because there is no scratch. There is no vacant lot in a certain area. If you're looking on Lily Pond Lane or Gin Lane or wherever it is, you're going to have to start with a tear down if you want to build your dream house. But, you know, that is the golden ring, is to find the location that is exactly where you want to be, and hire an architect who captures exactly the essence of your family and your friends and what you want, and then hire the right builder who can execute this whole thing. So that is the golden ticket.
A lot of questions coming in now, and I still have another question for all the panelists, but I want to get to some of these because some of these are good. So cash is king, obviously, in any market, I would have to assume. But the question here is it still a benefit to being an all cash buyer, or are you seeing a lot of deals that are financed?
Hands down.
Cash is
Cash
king.
is
Down to
emperor.
that king. Yeah,
Cash is emperor. It's no longer king, it's emperor.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think what you're
You need-
sacrificing.
Clear answer to your question.
Yeah, there you go.
Another good question here. What's a good area for a first-time starter home?
I think Enzo answered that before.
What's
West of the
a
canal?
starter home in what regards for someone coming from the outside with children and stuff of that nature?
I think it's someone that probably, is looking for something that's probably not high-end, that they can get a good value. Use those words.
Hampton
Good
Bays.
value.
Hampton Bays has the lowest median home sale price on the East
Yep.
End.
Mm. Yep, totally agree with that. Hampton Bays, East Quogue. East Quogue is becoming very, very hot. And I tell you what a sleeper is, and has been a sleeper for years, and I don't see it staying that way anymore, is Rensenburg. Rensenburg has space. And people didn't like that at first, but right now space is really, really supreme. And we're seeing that. And I think that market is going to go through the roof, not through the, everybody gets pumped up. It's just going to go up. It's not going to linger anymore.
Enzo, I think your remark about space is good, but I'd just like to interject. There have been several young families over the years who have been renters who eventually became buyers, and they're very, very accustomed to living in a city environment where there's a doorman and there are lights and there are people around. And they find it very difficult to be out in some of the more remote areas of our township. And I say remote because it's woodland, but it's not very far away. It's only several miles, or it would be, a number of city blocks. But on those city blocks, you have people and lights and people. So for the space and being kind of out in the dark as we approach daylight savings time falling back, it does get dark out there, folks. And so I think you need to know what your comfort level is in terms of having neighbors and still having space.
I'm going to pose one more question. I'm going to ask another question of the panels, and then we'll, if we have time, we'll answer more questions. There's a lot coming in. This one is an interesting question. It's someone that looks like they're an investor, that they're not going to make this their primary home out east. And their question is, do you think summer rental rates are likely to increase, decrease, or stay the same since there's now going to be an influx of year-round residents?
They have gone up. And this is the first time in many years that rentals have gone up. And right now, we actually have an influx of investors who are buying homes, fixing them up so they can use them as rentals. So it was a very long stretch of no increases in rental values. And this year with COVID, they really did go up. That's our experience.
Well, I think in terms of the investment aspect of that as well, we had been experiencing what I would call the Airbnb or buy owner rental effect, where things were shorter term, certainly for those of us. And since I'm the ghost person here, I can say who's been in the business a long time, you would have full season rentals or, July through Labor Day, or at the very least, a minimum of a month. And a lot of homeowners who've been in the rental and investment market business were kind of having a hard time adjusting to that shorter term situation. And now, even though we've always had a hard time securing year-round rentals are becoming more and more common and equally as hard to find, even though there are more people doing them. So from that investment standpoint, if you have the ability to invest in properties and improve them, as I think is being done across the country, you will have people that want to rent, especially in areas such as ours.
Well, I also think that
Also,
homeowners
Sorry.
concerns. I also think that homeowners that may have been hesitant to put their homes on the market for rentals in the past will do so now with the demand so high and pricing where it is. I think it's an opportunity for some of those homeowners that historically haven't had to have that extra rental revenue. They may come into the market. So you may see those guys start tapping in as well.
What about,
This is,
go ahead, Shannon, sorry.
go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
I've been experiencing that owners who would typically rent their house for multiple months now are requiring that the full season be rented first, because if I rent for July, finding somebody for August and showing the property is a problem. The showing the property has become a problem because of the COVID.
Very good point.
Excellent point.
This is the first year in a long time that you actually can rent and pay a mortgage in a lot of different price ranges. That kind of went away for a while. And actually, if you're in the right spot, not only can you cover the rent, you can make a little bit of money. So it's kind of very, very interesting. That hasn't happened in a long time.
We also found that there are some homeowners who used to rent their homes and they decided to use their homes. And I don't know if anybody else experienced this, but we had several leases out that got canceled by homeowners because they chose to come out and use their rental. Did you guys experience that?
I think that occurred across the board.
But I also have homeowners who won't commit to next year thus far. You know, there are still too many things pending. So I have interest, but they won't commit at this point.
I have a question for the panel.
Sorry, Enzo.
I'm sorry. I have a question for the panel. Have you, I think all of us have experienced people moving in and extending, whether the homeowner wants to extend or not. They basically say, I'm here. Have you had that?
Meaning
It's happened to me a couple of times, which never used to.
Problems, Enzo,
Holdover.
getting the tenant to
Holdovers.
leave?
Yeah.
Holdover
yeah.
tenants, and thanks to the new silly law about no evictions, landlord has
a little tricky.
absolutely no rights whatsoever. It blows my mind, but there have been some real horror stories. You're right, Enzo.
Yeah, there are, and they are. So I think, that's one of the things the renters have to worry about, that it all looks good. Oh, I can grab the money, and all of a sudden the person goes, well, and it's not necessarily that they're bad people or anything. Sometimes they can't go back to New York. They've lost their job. And then some of them are just holdovers, and it throws the whole thing. It's horrible. It's a
Either way,
horrible
it's
situation.
bad behavior. It's bad behavior. It shouldn't happen. And, it's unfortunate when the law protects somebody who is abusing the law instead of allowing the people who really do need that law to save their family from being thrown out on the street. It wasn't written for our tenants.
Well, it's certainly a risk that investors have to be aware of, though, right? I mean, if you're going to be renting out,
absolutely,
you have to know that you have that risk.
I think
we tell all of our landlords, make sure you Google the people, make sure you have some kind of references from them just to make sure that you're secure. And even with all of those validations in place,
still can't tell.
Exactly right. Exactly.
You still have that risk in place, and I'll say, knock on wood, I haven't experienced that myself in this rather tumultuous time. I have had people extend their leases with the agreement of the homeowner. However, I think you also, much as you need a good team in a purchase of a home, in particularly in these times, and with the unusual guidelines that we all have to work with, you, in addition to all the good in-house attorney counsel that each of us work with, as a tenant, and as well as a landlord, you need to have somebody review that lease that is going to protect you from that holdover situation. And in some cases, there's a per diem penalty that is, I know, has been worked into quite a number of leases, whereby if you are, trying to kind of do the holdover action, you have to be prepared to pay the penalty.
Well, that's a lawsuit,
Well,
that's a lawsuit. So
it still
we're
is,
seeing
but, there are some people that will engage in that to the protection of their own property.
Let me pose
Well,
this.
I personally am telling a lot of my people, unless you absolutely need the money, don't rent. That's what I tell them. That's
The biggest
exactly what I
is
tell
the
them.
people that want to sell also rent. If you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
sell, sell. If you want to rent, rent.
And
Don't do both.
rent. So I tell them, don't. I go, if you're a seller, do that. They go, you want to do that? They go ahead. And you
Judy, let me
can't
pose,
tell.
this question to you, because this is a good question. I know that Town and Country Real Estate has a strong presence on the North Fork. And I live in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, so I know a lot of Brooklynites love the North Fork. So talk about how the North Fork is faring as compared to the South Fork.
Very well.
Excellent question. Actually, I years ago decided that the North Fork was the Brooklyn of the Hamptons. And there is a big influx of Brooklyn people who love it up there because it is more rural. It is more authentic. It's, you know, it's the way the Hamptons maybe was, I don't know, 50 years ago, but not really because there's no estate sections. As far as the metrics are concerned, the appreciation rate up on the North Fork is higher than it is on the South Fork, but that's simply because their median home sale price and all the different hamlets up there started so much lower. So they are moving up at a greater rate. There is absolutely zero inventory. On the North Fork, the entire North Fork right now, there's 164 houses on the entire North Fork. We probably have 3 people for every house that's available for sale.
Right.
And it's not like you can manufacture homes for sale. The people on the North Fork who want to sell, they're selling. And if they don't want to sell, they're not going to sell. So there's a little bit of a problem going on with inventory. But having said that, it's a beautiful place. I closed today on another piece of real estate on the North Fork. It's a hybrid between commercial and residential, and I continue to buy there. I think it's amazing.
I'm going to go into one more question for each of the panelists, and then if we have time, we're going to go to a couple of other really good questions that I think would be nice to answer as long as everyone has the time. So why don't I just go around and maybe I'll start with you, JB. What's your top advice to anyone looking to move to the Hamptons? Any advice, just, you know, really strategically speaking?
I think you need to find an advisor that fits your personality and fits is an extension of your brand. What I mean by that is someone that has experience, but also and is accountable and trustworthy. Those are prerequisites. That's what we all do here. But it's someone that you can also have fun with. Like, this should be a fun experience as well. I think that you need to come out here and feel the Hamptons. So I think, you know, some of these secondary platforms like Zillow and they're trying to kind of do away with brokers and pitch an experience that buyers can just purchase or invest by simply looking online. And that's not the case. You need to come out here. You need to feel each and every town to figure out what is the best fit for you. And you need an advisor to walk you through setbacks of properties, link you up with the good mortgage broker and a good attorney that we trust out here. So there's a lot of different ways to help people. And I think, you know, just getting out here to feel and experience the Hamptons and experience each town is super important.
Shannan?
I'm going to piggyback off of what JB said, but I'm going to go a step further and say I want to really commend the real estate brokerage community out here for struggling and navigating not only through COVID, but pre-COVID. Many people don't know that our database was a new database was introduced to us right before COVID, right before March. And so as agents, we were trying to get all the information for rentals and sales from one to another and make sure they're all in sync. And then suddenly we were getting calls that people were on the LIE coming out to look at property. And it was really, I found it quite challenging. So I commend all of my colleagues in the community. And that's exactly what JB was saying. It's really important for the buyers or consumers, if you're renting, to call us and get the real data. The data that you see on Zillow and Trulia is not necessarily accurate. So please use us. It's a unique market out here, and we're here to serve the community that we love and live and work in.
Patti?
To continue with those thought processes, I think that if you have some familiarity with the communities, because you've been a renter here for a while, you have a little bit of an advantage. You'll see that, you know, there are areas that have spoken to you in the past, and they'll continue to speak to you. And in conjunction with the platforms that you use to research, there's so many places you can go to gather information, but our local database, Hamptons Real Estate, Hamptons RE for short, is probably one of the most accurate database filled sites that you can go to, along with some of the others that you may have used in the past. Think about what you want if you want to be here on a permanent basis. Make a little list. And if you're in a family situation or a partner situation, everybody make their list of, this is what I want, this is where I'd really like to be, these are my ideal things. Compare that list and then kind of focus on the areas that are of most interest to you at first, but be prepared to pivot if it's not available in your first choice, or maybe even in your second choice, because you might discover yet another amazing spot here. And as Judy said, the North Fork is a very cool spot. I actually have neighbors who rented all summer, and they ended up spending a lot of time on the North Fork. And they said, it was really, really great, but we're glad to be back home because we're close to the ocean. And I think that's a big factor. And similarly, so if you are planning to buy and you have rented here, you're going to have had some exposure to the various areas, and you will know a little bit about what you ideally would like to have. And then you have to, I think, as JB remarked, have somebody that you can relate to, that understands what you're looking for. That's going to, I'll go back to some of my first comments, that is really listening to what you're saying. I think we all have the tendency at times to talk, and forget to listen. And I think that's probably one of the biggest tools in your toolbox, is to use your ears.
Enzo.
I think one of the biggest thing that you can do right now is, and I'm seeing it, we started a program where we say, when choosing a broker, do your homework. It's easy to do your homework. Before it wasn't. I mean, it's just as simple as going. Zillow, with all its drawback, has become, it has a lot of wonderful uses. And one of the wonderful uses that it has is that if you have someone who's active in the market, it will be reflected in the listings they have. And I think you need to look at that. Does this person work in that particular field, price field? And then you have to look at the results. If you're a seller, you have to look at the results. What has this person done lately? And if you go to Zillow, just put in a name and go Zillow on Google, it'll pop up and you can see what their inventory is. And you can also see what they just did over the past year. And it's fairly simple. And to do that, if you have a good advisor, you have a huge advantage here. If you don't, you're going to get eaten up. You're going to get eaten up by someone who's going to outbid you, someone who is not as versed and as knowledgeable about what can be done right away versus you waiting to get information on it. You can move quicker. You have to travel light and be able to move quick and do, excuse me, and doing your homework. I just look up the broker, and after that, make sure you get along. If you don't get along, forget it. I don't care how knowledgeable they are. So it's a good combination for all of the above. And the consumer, the sellers and the buyers, they have it at their fingertips. Do a little more homework before you move and work with someone.
Judi.
Well, the first thing I would say is it's important to know where you want to be. When you're doing a search from West Hampton Beach to Montauk, you're doing yourself a disservice. Every one of the hamlets has its own personality. So the most important thing is which hamlet personality suits your personality and your family's needs. And then, of course, as Patti said, and several others have said here, it's important to get a knowledgeable broker who can help you navigate, because it is, when somebody says, okay, I've decided on East Hampton. Well, East Hampton has an estate section. It's got the Northwest Woods. It's got the Village. We've got the Springs. We have Barnes Land. You can go anywhere in East Hampton. So when you pick East Hampton, pick a right agent that can help you navigate which area fits your profile. And of course, know what your comfort zone is. Don't go blind. If you really, your comfort zone is $1.5 million, then don't look at $3.5 million houses, because that's always going to blow the $1.5 million house away. So they've all said, the panelists have all indicated that, pick the right person. And as Shannan said, make sure that they have access to all the right data, but know where you want to be and stay within your comfort zone price-wise.
Well, this was a go ahead, Enzo.
I'm sorry. We as a team, what's been happening and never used to happen before, we get people that are coming from New York or from another area. They don't know where they want to be. So what we do, my team, we set it up and literally we'll send them out and let them explore. Part of it is an education, a quick education, that we educate them on the other side of the canal. And then if they want to explore here, we do that. And that never used to happen before. But you stand there and people go, well, where do you want to live? They really don't know. And each town has its own flavor. And a knowledgeable, good broker can explain that, or at least take them to locations that fits their price range in different communities. So that they can see, in this community for $1.5 million, I can get this. In this community for $1.5 million, I get, whoa. So being able to do that, I think, and doing it quick, so you educate them.
I just want to tie two things together. JB said it was really important to have a relationship or chemistry with your real estate agent, and that's so true. But we also, as real estate agents, can't be experts in all areas. So tying into what Enzo says, we have resources and we have teams, and I have a West Hampton office. And so I'm happy to use those sources with you and share them. And so I think that's huge. So you don't have to pick one agent and expect to know the whole area.
You're exactly right, Shannan. And that's where it's great to have all of the panelists here are within companies that have multiple offices all over the South Fork and the East End. So it is important to be able to send them to the expert in their area, because you can't be an expert everywhere.
No.
I totally agree.
Well, I'm going to add off by giving everyone very good advice, and that's make sure to visit behindthehedges.com. We have a new editor-in-chief, and we are doing updates every day. We have listings of the day, which we are curating the best properties in the Hamptons and North Fork. And you'll notice that there's going to be an increase in content on a daily basis. So sign up for our email newsletter. I want to thank the panelists. This is an all-star team. We have a lot of questions that we did not get to, but this is such a hot market. They have to go back to selling. But we are going to email all of you their contact information. And I assure you, they want to hear from you. They want to answer your questions that have not been answered. And they are the experts. So I want to give a big thank you to each and every one of you. And again, this will be also available on behindthehedges.com if someone didn't have a chance to see it. So I want to thank everyone and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks, Josh.